We'll kick things off this morning with the race for the White House. The Biden-Harris campaign is out with a new ad this morning, recruiting Hollywood icon Robert De Niro to argue its case.
From midnight tweets to drinking bleach to tear-gassing citizens and staging a photo op, we knew Trump was out of control when he was president. Then he lost the 2020 election and snapped, desperately trying to hold on to power. Now he's running again, this time threatening to be a dictator, to terminate the Constitution.
If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Trump wants revenge, and he'll stop at nothing to get it. I'm Joe Biden.
Joining us now, senior spokesperson for the Biden-Harris 2024 re-election campaign, Adrian Elrod. Adrian, so good to see you this morning. Look, you get Robert De Niro voicing an ad like that. We've heard the Biden campaign, obviously, with some of those images, some of those messages out before. What difference does it make in terms of swing voters, in terms of donors, having a celebrity voice ads like that?
Well, it's incredibly important, of course, Katty, because number one, it does break through. I mean, Robert De Niro, two-time Academy Award winner, he's from New York. He epitomizes, the ultimate ability to draw a contrast with a fellow New Yorker. But we also, with this ad, Katty, want to make sure that the American people understand that as bad as a Trump presidency was in the first go-around, it will be even worse in the second go-around. He's made it very clear that he wants to rule like a dictator. He's made it very clear that if he loses this election, there will be a bloodbath. And he's made it very clear that he's going to use a second term not to fight for the American people, but to seek political revenge on his enemies, on his political enemies. And so we want to make sure that the American people truly understand this contrast, truly understand what is at stake. And you're going to see a lot more contrast like this coming from us, Katty, in the closing 5.5 months between now and the election.
Adrian, thanks for joining us live there from Wilmington. Wanted to ask you about this idea of Trump amnesia. Some in the Biden world, Democrats that we all speak to, have grown really frustrated that so many Americans simply don't really remember, it seems, what it was like under Donald Trump. They have this rosy picture of the Trump economy, and they've forgotten some of the chaos. Clearly, this ad is meant as a reminder there. But how do you break through that fog where people don't want to think about, perhaps, say, times during COVID? They don't want to think about those hard moments, and they're only looking at it through a gauzy film.
Well, there's a couple of different ways that we're going to make sure that the American people understand how dangerous and divisive Donald Trump is. Number one, we are laying the infrastructure in the states, Jonathan, that Donald Trump's campaign is not laying. We spent millions and millions of dollars on hiring staff, opening up offices, running ads in key battleground states. That work will continue. Donald Trump basically does not have a footprint in a lot of these states. And so the infrastructure that we're laying will make a very huge difference in not only a close election, but making sure that voters truly understand in these states what is at stake. Secondly, Jen O'Malley-Dillon, our campaign chair, this morning issued a memo sort of laying out between now and June 27th, the first debate in Atlanta, of course, the road to Atlanta, sort of what our roadmap is, what our game plan is to take our message to the states, to continue to draw that contrast with Donald Trump and the American people, to make it very clear that President Biden is someone who has not only been fighting for the American people during his first term as president, but he will continue to fight for the American people, lowering drug costs, creating more jobs, getting a lot of those manufacturing jobs that he passed as part of his first four major economic bills into place, making sure that, he's continuing to work to lower prices for American families. That is what he is fighting for. Donald Trump, again, trying to seek political retribution and revenge on his political enemies. We're going to keep drawing that contrast. And look, President Biden is extremely excited for the June 27th debate. He's got a lot of questions to ask Donald Trump. Why did you put 3 Supreme Court justices on who you knew were going to overturn Roe and not allow women to make their own reproductive decisions about their bodies? Why are you using this time to try to seek political revenge? What are you trying to really get out of the second term? He's looking forward to that conversation and that debate, and we're looking forward to making sure the American people truly understand what is at stake in this election.
Elrod, what about abortion? Yesterday, the Louisiana legislature passed legislation that would criminalize abortion medication. There are a lot of issues to go after Trump on. I mean, we've already gone through a litany in the 90 seconds you've been on. And a lot of people think that maybe the campaign's relying too much on abortion as an issue to motivate voters to turn out. But where do you all think about abortion rights and how it fits into the campaign?
Look, Jim, let's just take a step back here. I mean, you and I worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2015 and 16, and we knew that, of course, there was always the possibility that if Donald Trump won, our reproductive rights were going to be taken away. But they were taken away because he put 3 Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court who made it very clear that they were not going to allow Roe to stand if they were confirmed on the Supreme Court. So, first of all, I don't think we can talk enough about this. Secondly, let's also look at what just happened in Louisiana. Women can be locked up in prison for 10 years for taking an abortion drug to protect their own reproductive health. So we want to make sure, again, that not only do the American people understand what is at stake and who is responsible for this, but look, we're also talking about other issues. You know, President Biden has been taking his economic message to the road. He was just in Wisconsin talking about the tens of thousands of jobs that he's created under his presidency since he's been there. Of course, Donald Trump broken promises, said he was going to create all these jobs in Racine, never came to fruition. We're making sure that we're talking about the other issues, too. But, Jen, I don't think you can talk enough about women's reproductive rights. I always kind of look to my college girlfriends as my barometer in terms of what's breaking through, what their concerns about. They vote every election cycle, but they don't always tune in until the last few months. They've been talking to me about their concerns about losing Roe, losing their reproductive rights, you know, their daughters having potentially less rights than they had, before Roe was overturned. IVF, of course, being at risk, women's contraception being at risk. It's truly, truly frightening what's at stake here. And we have to, again, make sure that the American people understand the contrast, understand what is at stake.